Welcome back in Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yao alongside Mo Patton. It's a nice jacket, man.
I was waiting.
I
was waiting.
It's not just
to make
the jacket
reference because here's the deal. Before we went to North Carolina, I needed a sports jacket. I needed a fresh sports jacket. Went and got something. Tripped on this. This was $40 at Belk. So couldn't not get it.
That's right.
I mean, it's not a summer jacket, but I knew that
winter is coming.
Yes. And so it got cool enough to wear it.
Hey, it's nice.
So I did.
I like the watch is a nice touch too. I always love a good watch with the
Jody likes the elbow patch.
Solid.
Yeah.
Solid.
She kind of picked this and said, "You will wear this, won't you?" I said, "Well, if you buy it, I guess so."
It's a good look. It's a good look. Yeah. I like it. So,
a little different.
I went sweater vest. I like a vest because if I didn't have arms, it'd be a jacket. But anyway.
You need something warm right now, man, for sure.
It's chilly. I bet it's not nearly as chilly as it is in East Tennessee, though. Let's ask Heather Williams. What's the weather like out there, Heather?
It's chilly-ish. It's about 50 degrees, but I just want Mo should have warned me that he was looking fly today because I've just been shooting a sports feature on a cross-country team, and I look at the shoveled mess, and he's all like straight out of the boardroom, and now I feel underdressed for this whole thing.
You are just fine, Ms. Williams, because I don't want to warn anybody because I don't want to build up any expectations, but we are glad to have, as we do every Wednesday, talking NASCAR, Heather Williams from WCYB-TV out of Bristol, and Oak Park High School 2022 Hall of Fame inductee, Heather Williams. When she was traveling last weekend, she was going home to Kansas City for her induction into her high school Hall of Fame. She didn't tell us that.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of sneaking up. So
I didn't.
Heather, congratulations.
I'm not really much of a bragger. I mean, I'm not much of a bragger, but it was an awesome experience.
You're preaching to the choir on that one, so I get that completely, but it deserves to be acknowledged, and you deserve to be recognized for it. Congratulations. That's
well, thank you.
That's really great.
It was awesome. It was fun.
That's good. Obviously, Heather, if we're talking NASCAR right now, there's no way around talking about Darrell Wallace Jr.
They used his government name and everything.
Well,
it's like you're his daddy and he's in trouble.
I feel like I'm probably not the only one using his government name over the last few days. But
Darrell Wallace Jr., you get in this car hauler right now.
Right now, yeah. We need to talk. Again, I'm a NASCAR novice. You guys are coaching me up, and I appreciate it. But before I saw what took place in the race, I heard about it, and I heard everything that you'd expect to hear whenever Bubba does something wrong. And, so I talked to Heather a little bit about it and kind of got the skinny on this. Heather, tell everybody else what you told me.
Well, I mean, basically, Bubba was wrong. Bubba should not have done that on that track in the way that he did it. He should not have hooked someone in the rear and turned them at a intermediate track. At the big tracks, it's incredibly dangerous. And Bubba knew that. Everybody knew that and understood that. And he really forced NASCAR's hand. Suspensions are not unheard of in NASCAR. They're rare. They don't like to do it, especially the drivers, but they do happen. The thing that's disappointing about this is that it was Bubba. And as you mentioned, anytime Bubba does something, there is a certain amount of reaction from a certain subset of the population that comes with it. They're usually louder than everybody else. And Bubba should know that that's what's going to happen, and I'm sure he probably did. And in hindsight, he probably would not have reacted the way that he did. But it's done. It's over with. We all have let our emotions get away from us. It'll just be interesting to me to see what happens going forward, how he handles it, how the sport handles it, how the fans handle it. That'll be the more telling thing than what's already said and done.
I just feel like these things happen, and they happen with drivers other than Bubba. And I don't know that the reaction is the same when they happen with other drivers that they are when they happen with Bubba.
No, the reaction's definitely not the same from the fans. Now, I think NASCAR was pretty fair in what they do. I think if you look at similar situations at similar sized tracks, the reaction's been the same. Even at a smaller track like Martinsville, they parked Matt Kenseth for a couple of races for hooking a guy the same way Bubba did. So I don't think the NASCAR's reaction was any different than it would be. What Bubba did was very dangerous. It could have injured Kyle Larson. As far as the fans go, that's just to be expected with Bubba, unfortunately. I mean, not to in any way, shape, or form compare him to Jackie Robinson or Wendell Scott, but in some ways there are some similarities because of the fact that he's under that same kind of microscope, and everything that he does is going to, for certain subset of people, is going to be seen through that lens. And it doesn't really matter if it's fair or right or any of those things. That's the lens that they view all people through, and Bubba's no different. So for that reason, it's disappointing because there is more pressure on Bubba to not make those mistakes, but he's also human. And he's also still pretty young guy. And Matt Kenseth, for instance, when he had his little spat with Joey Logano that got him parked for 2 races, was much older than what Bubba is now. So I mean, when your emotions get to you, your emotions get to you. So
I mean, NASCAR, it happens a lot. I mean, that's just NASCAR. When you're physically, with a car, a vehicle of that size, it's a dangerous weapon. And when you're bumping and hitting each other and racing hard, things are going to happen. You're going to get frustrated with yourself, with your opponent. You're going to get frustrated. And this is not unprecedented. I mean, people have absolutely turned folks in the past, and they've gotten out of the car and, pushed and shoved. And I thought Kyle did a good job walking away, but I also think it was more self-preservation than keeping his cool.
Yeah, Bubba's quite a bit bigger than Kyle. Kyle wants no part of that fight.
No.
Well, and that was part of a certain faction's disgruntlement, I guess, with the situation. Pick on somebody your own size. Well, nobody his own size ran him into the wall.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that Bubba and Kyle are friends. So that whole incident didn't have anything to do with NASCAR's decision to punish Bubba. And it probably will be something that those two will be able to work out on their own. Steve O'Donnell, executive vice president for NASCAR, was on Sirius Satellite Radio yesterday. And, he pretty much said that where Bubba did that, the fact that it was at a 1.5-mile track, high-speed track, played as much into the penalty as did the fact that he hooked him. And their history shows that, right? Bubba got hooked by Michael McDowell at Bristol at All-Star Open 2 years ago, and there was absolutely no punishment for him. He wasn't parked. He wasn't anything. So because hooking someone at Bristol is not as dangerous. You're going 80 miles an hour in the turns as opposed to, 120 miles an hour in the turns as you would be at Vegas. So, just a lot of factors went into this. And when you look at similar violations at similar tracks or similar encounters, it's pretty consistent that they're going to park you for at least one race. And so, I mean, I think that it's fair in that regard. I think that it's unfortunate because of who it is.
That's fair. Mm-hmm. I mean, like you said, he's got to be a little bit more careful than others. And ironically, Kyle Larson does too. I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking about the, two guys who have both had this, had situations,
Have been in the spotlight.
have been in this spotlight
Mhm.
particularly, and it just so happened that they got tangled up. But it's
So who won the race anyway?
Joey Logano won the race
So-
and punched his ticket to the championship 4, which is huge for them, but nobody's talking about it, which I think Joey's probably okay with. I think they like being a little bit of the guy no one talks about.
Kind of under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, I think that team enjoys that. So I think Joey's probably absolutely fine with that.
And this is the final opportunity for a driver to punch his ticket, automatic with a win on Sunday at Homestead.
But there's 2 more races. There's Homestead and Martinsville.
Okay. I thought they only had 3 races before the finals. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it was last week.
Last week. I'm sorry. You're right.
Yeah.
That's what. So there's only 3 races, but this was the first of the 3.
Right,
Yes.
That's not bad.
Last week seems like it was
I'm very
like 8
confused.
weeks packed into one. So
Hey, let's not question our expert.
Well, yeah. I was just trying to
Well-
work through it in my head.
I'm going to Martinsville too. So I mean, obviously that race sticks out to me a little bit more than the others. I kept having to remind myself about Homestead because I kept like, where are they going this week? I don't remember.
And Homestead, thank goodness it's not the final race of the year anymore. But right now, the playoff standings are. Here's the positive, Mo, of all of this. Ross Chastain sits at number 2.
So so you're saying there's a
I'm
chance.
saying there's a chance,
There
baby.
you go.
Oh, I think there's a good chance. I think that these set of races set up really well for Ross. I got a chance to talk to him last week, and I mean, I think they feel pretty confident about these racetracks that are left, including the championship race. I would say that they don't even necessarily have to win a race to get into the championship race. They just need to not make a mistake, and I think that they'll get in, because right now, sitting number 2, that means that they are the highest guy on points and in a pretty good position. So yeah, their Trackhouse has a great chance.
Right now, it's Logano, Chastain, Chase Elliott, and Denny Hamlin, with William Byron, Chase Briscoe, and my computer.
Ryan Blaney and
Yeah,
Christopher Bell.
Ryan Blaney and Christopher Bell trying to get in, I guess. So
But win and you're in. That's the key here. And
Just win,
obviously,
baby.
Just win. And at Homestead, it becomes a really interesting race, because it is a kind of a tame track, Heather.
It is, but the mile and a halves have been anything but tame this year.
That's
They've
true.
always been tame in the past. And look at last week. I hit the mute button for some reason. Look at last week at Vegas, or look at Kansas. I mean, those have been some of the best races of the year. So
That's
I'm
true.
actually really excited about Homestead, because this is the 1 mile and a half track that people raved about even before the new car, because of the progressive banking, and it's so wide and so many places to pass. So I actually think that a lot of drivers, because Martinsville as a short track has a little bit of a air of unpredictability to it, I think a lot of drivers will be pushing really hard in this race, feeling like, especially if you're a Christopher Bell or a Chase Briscoe that needs a win, feeling like this is the place that you got to get it done.
I like that she threw in that Homestead has an air of unpredictability to it, since she knows we're going to ask her to predict.
That's self-preservation in and of
Yeah,
itself right there.
exactly. Kind of a little CYA
Well, my
line there
predictions-
for Heather.
My predictions have been more like curses, I feel like, although Hamlin finished in the top 5 this week, so I guess it wasn't horrible. But yeah, my predictions have not bode well for whoever I pick usually.
That being the case, who you got?
Well, this is the last track that we haven't been to on the schedule, so there's nothing to compare it to other than the other mile and a halves. At the mile and a half intermediate tracks, Toyotas have been king up until last week when Joey Logano got his win. Last year, this race was won in the old car, not in the playoffs, by William Byron. So basically that gets me nowhere, right? Because Toyotas have been good all year, Fords were good last week, and Chevys were good last year. but I think that more often than not, the Toyotas are the teams to beat when we go to these 1.5 miles this year. And so for that reason, I'm going to pick Denny Hamlin this week again. Although there's an outside chance it could be Christopher Bell, but I'm going to go with Hamlin because that team's just been running more consistently than Bell over the course of the season, especially on the 1.5 miles.
There you have it. Denny Hamlin, old Sticks.
Number 11.
Number 11 in the FedEx Toyota should be a fun race. Like you said, a lot of places to pass. It should be interesting in this new car, and
he'll be the lone 23-11 running, right?
Well, he actually drives for Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yeah,
he's
owned.
He owns, but he doesn't. Okay,
yeah,
my bad.
Weird.
Never mind.
Yeah. NASCAR's weird.
Yeah, and to that same topic, John Hunter Nemechek is going to drive the 45 this week in place of Bubba. The 45 will still be in the race. It'll just be a different driver. John Hunter is the official backup driver for Toyota. He drives normally in the truck series, and the trucks are there in Homestead this weekend. So that was an easy call. So John Hunter will be
in double duty this weekend then, huh?
Correct. He'll drive his truck series, which he's still in contention for a truck series championship, and then he'll turn around on Sunday and drive in the cup race as well.
Now, will Bubba be back for Martinsville?
Yes, Bubba should be back for Martinsville and for the final race at Phoenix. Yeah, it's just a 1 race suspension, so he will be back in the car, and it'll be interesting. It's funny because I heard somebody on the radio yesterday say it'll be interesting to see how the fans react. Well, Bubba gets booed everywhere, kind of like Kyle Busch. So I don't know that the fans will react any different. Maybe just each side, the cheers and the boos a little bit stronger to prove their point.
Trying to find where Haley Deegan finished in.
I believe she finished 11th last week in the Xfinity Series.
13th.
13th? Okay.
And that's a pretty good finish in her first
I thought it was
foray into Xfinity. Well done.
Yeah, I thought it was top 15. I knew it was the top 15 for sure. Well, the thing is, and I talked about this, sometimes different styles of cars just fit people better. She just may not be as comfortable in a truck as she is in an Xfinity Series car. The Xfinity Series team that she was running for is a pretty good team. So, those factors go into it as well. And she just may be better suited for the Xfinity Series. I hope that she'll get a few more chances to do it.
Me too. All right, Heather Williams, WCYB-TV. Looking forward to seeing your post on your cross country feature.
Yeah, it's going to run tomorrow. So just real quickly, this team in Milligan, they are number 1 in NAIA in men's and women's cross country at the moment. So.
Oh, wow.
And defending national champions in both men's and women's.
Oh, okay.
Defending national champions in both, number 1 in both. That's
what are they running from up there?
Bears.
Yeah, bears and foxes and all sorts of things in the mountains here. It's a gorgeous campus. I hadn't been on campus since 2020. And it's beautiful. I've forgotten how pretty it is up here. It's nestled kind of in the side of the mountain.
Where is Milligan? Remind me.
It's technically Milligan is the town, but it's basically right outside of Elizabethton and in between Elizabethton and Johnson City.
Okay. All right. So it's relatively close for you then.
Yeah, about 40 minutes from Bristol.
Okay.
Sorry you missed your soccer match last night.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what happened. That's what happens when it's over at halftime.
Science Hill just they were ready to go. They were, really, we don't really need to be here. Let's just go home.
Oh, wow.
So they just ended up at halftime, nothing.
I anchored the sports at 6:30. Got off the set. It's about a 40-minute drive to Science Hill from our station. Get out of the car and people are streaming out of the stadium. And I'm like, what time did this game start? They're like 6:30. I was like, what? They're like, oh, it was over at halftime. I was like, oh. Okay.
Well, at least you didn't have to layer up and wear 4 layers like I did last night. So
as I posted on Twitter, which obviously was seen by some. Good news, Science Hill won big. Good news, I don't have to stay in the cold. Bad news, game was over at halftime. I got no highlights.
You could have filmed the people streaming out.
that was the highlight.
There you go.
It was the highlight. All the way, by the way, all equally as excited that they no longer had to sit in the cold.
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
I bet they were.
No doubt.
Thanks, Heather. We appreciate your time as always.
Thanks, Guy.